Hello, friends. I'm here in Istanbul with Linda and Jeff for the Gaza Tribunal. The idea behind the Gaza Tribunal is to give voice to the people, because governments and international organizations have been pretty useless in putting an end to Israel's genocide in Gaza. And therefore, Richard Falk, a very distinguished former UN Special Rapporteur on human rights in the occupied territories, has taken the initiative in convening this huge international gathering from experts and witnesses from many, many different countries. Today is the last day of the tribunal, and one important factor about this tribunal is that it is a people's tribunal, and great care was taken to avoid any contact with the governments. So this is the voice of the people, and in view of the widespread feeling of helplessness in face of the devastation and wreckage, devastation and mass slaughter in Gaza, it's very, very important to empower people to feel that they have a say in what is going on. There are two kinds of people who spoke before the jury. There are experts who submitted papers not in jargon, but in readable English that any person can understand. So there are quite a lot of experts with a range of papers. And then there were eyewitnesses, people who were survivors of the massacre in Gaza, and their testimonies were extremely moving and sometimes reduced one to tears. I was one of the experts, and my paper was on Zionist settler colonialism, and I was given 10 minutes to summarize the paper. So I started by saying that, quoting Noam Chomsky, who said that settler colonialism is the most extreme and vicious form of imperialism. And the Palestinians for the last century have been at the receiving end of Zionist settler colonialism on the one hand and Western imperialism on the other hand, first under Britain and then under America. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict was made in Britain. I can summarize the history of the British mandate in Palestine by saying that Britain stole Palestine from the Palestinians and gave it to the Zionists. The cornerstone of the British mandate in Palestine was to avoid elections, to avoid democracy until the Jews became the majority. And the Jews only became a majority in Palestine during the 1948 war as a result of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. 750,000 Palestinians became refugees. This is the Nakba, the catastrophe. But the Nakba is not a one-off event. It's an ongoing process that has continued ever since 1948, but has reached its most cruel and I would say vicious climax in the war in Gaza. The Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October was a very traumatic event for Israelis. But that event did not happen in a vacuum. It happened in the context. And in my work, and in a book that I've published recently under the heading Genocide in Gaza, I give the historical context for this attack. And the history is all important, and my role as a historian is to explain the context in which the Hamas attack happened. And I believe that the Israeli government deliberately magnified the trauma in order to justify the response that followed, in order to legitimize the response. This attack completely unhinged the whole of Israeli society. And the response was that after this attack, anything Israel does is justified, and anyone who criticizes Israel is an anti-Semite. So that's the mindset in Israel ever since the Hamas attack. But of course, this is quite wrong. Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself, because under international law, you have the right to defend yourself if you are attacked by another state. This is not the case. You do not have the right to defend yourself against the people you occupied. It's the people under military occupation who have the right to resist, including the right to armed resistance. The original Israeli aim in this war was the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip, and there is a Ministry of Intelligence paper dated 13 October 2023, which was leaked, which reveals concrete plans for depopulating the entire Gaza Strip. Egyptian opposition prevented Israel from carrying out ethnic cleansing. So what Israel has done when it was unable to expel the entire population was to rain down death and destruction on the defenseless people of Gaza. And Israel has been guilty of many crimes, of domicide, the destruction of homes. Israel has destroyed 92% of the housing and the civilian infrastructure. The forcible movement, the forcible displacement of civilians is a war crime. Israel has displaced over 90% of the population of Gaza, sometimes more than 10 times, and very often when the Gazans obeyed the instructions to evacuate, they were bombed by the Israeli Air Force, bombed on the roads and in the tents. Israel, the IDF, has also been guilty of economicide, of destroying the economy, of ecocide, the destruction of the environment. Before the 7th of October, 40% of Gaza was farmland. Today, according to the UN report, only 1.5% is undamaged and accessible. The IDF has also committed scholasticide. Scholasticide is the systematic destruction of the educational system. This is of particular interest to me as an academic, and I wrote an article on scholasticide in Gaza for the Journal of the British Academy. Israel bombed, damaged, or destroyed 512 schools and all 12 universities in Gaza. So over 600,000 children have been denied formal education for the last 2 years. On top of all that, there is cultural genocide. Israel the IDF has been attacking mosques, cultural centers, libraries, bookshops, archives. So the aim is to make Gaza uninhabitable. And as a result of all these different crimes, Gaza today is a wasteland. It's uninhabitable. Israel has destroyed and tried to erase everything that make the Palestinians in Gaza a coherent social grouping. And this brings me to genocide. The Genocide Convention was concluded in 1948 to prevent what happened to the Jews under Nazi Germany from ever happening again. And the message of the Holocaust is never again, never again, never again, not just for Jews, for everybody. And the greatest tragedy is that the Jews, who were the defenseless victims of Nazi Germany in the Second World War, today it's the Palestinians in Gaza who are the defenseless victims of the Jewish state. Israel has been committing genocide, and the international community has been helpless to stop the genocide and all of Israel's other crimes. Why? It's because of the connection between Zionist settler colonialism and Western imperialism. So the Western powers protect Israel, especially Britain and America. Last month, Britain recognized Palestine. This was pathetically too little, and 107 years too late, because in 1917, under the Balfour Declaration, when the Jews were 10% of the population in Palestine, Britain recognized the right to a Jewish state and denied national rights to the Palestinian majority. So it was back in 1917 that Britain should have recognized the Palestinian right to statehood. And Britain continues to supply arms to Israel. It's not the biggest arms supplier. America is the first arms supplier, the biggest arms supplier to Israel, and Germany is the second. America gives Israel military aid and diplomatic protection. Every year, America gives Israel $3.8 billion in military aid, every year. But in the last 2 years, America has given Israel $21.7 billion in military aid. So America is not just complicit in Israel's war crimes. America is an active partner in enabling Israel to continue to commit these war crimes. And secondly, America gives Israel diplomatic protection. America has used the veto on the Security Council 6 times to prevent a ceasefire resolution. The trouble with American support for Israel is that it is unconditional. This is why Israel gets away literally with murder. American support for Israel is not dependent on Israel respecting Palestinian human rights or international law. It is unconditional, and therefore Israel has enjoyed immunity until now, Israel has not been called to account. The international community has been unable to hold Israel to account. And this is still the case today, and Israel will continue to commit crimes against the Palestinian people, and it is during the war in Gaza, it has been carrying out the ethnic cleansing of the West Bank. There's been a massive escalation in settler violence with the encouragement of the government and with the support and the protection of the army. So to go back to where I started, Israel is a settler colonial state, and that explains the climax of cruelty and sadism that we have witnessed in Gaza over the last 2 years. Thank you.